something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop, children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
My name is Gerard O-D-I-L-A-S, Menard, M-E-N-A-R-D. I was a corporal. Just a minute. I got the information here. I don't know why I always carry this, but yeah, I was in the 99th Division. This is the emblem right there. See? The 9 white squares, the 9 blue squares. 99th Division, the 395th Infantry, the 1st Battalion, Company D of the 1st Army. Okay? It was my time. I was 18 years old. And it was, you just automatically went. I guess that's drafting.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the school. I was in high school. I was a junior in high school. So we left, and several of us left to go to war when we had, after our junior year. So we took off and went to war 2 years, and came back, and we went back and finished our high school. And they called us the veterans class. And in the yearbook, the school yearbook, they had pages of the veterans, those who went to war and back again. So it was a class in itself, a time in itself. So. No, they didn't. They didn't give my father, who was, well, you know, it was accepted then because everyone was in this. All young men went. And, everyone, some of the women who were involved as nurses, whatever. It was a whole-scale effort where everyone agreed to go and fight for our freedom. Camp Landing, Florida. That was okay, you know. But you know, it was there during the winter time, and it was cold there. So anyway, 6 months, I believe it was. I'm all over the country. Yeah, it was okay. Germany was entirely different, and going through France was okay for me because I could speak French. I spoke French, and I still do speak French fluently. And so I made out okay with it. And as a matter of fact, a couple of times I was an interpreter. So. Anyway?
Any interesting stories from your basic training?
Basic training? I just soon forget the basic training. Wasn't too, it was okay, you know, but they were training you to get you out there. They had to get you out there, fight, and that's the main purpose. And we left on a boat, I forget, I think it was Aquitania, yeah. And it was full of troops, full of jihadists, and they got us out there, and off by that time, they had gone across, let's see, Normandy was over with, and they've gone France, and they were in Austria and Germany. So that's where I met my company. Machine gunner. So you learn to be a machine gunner. And that was it. Mhm. Not Germany, Europe. It was Europe. And that, I'm glad I was over there. I've thought of that, you know, if anywheres at all. Of course, to be in a war at any place, it's just not good. You know? So I had to be someplace. Germany was not bad. You know? Oh, definitely. Yeah. You know, from what I hear about the Pacific, I've heard some guy tell me a few things, and it was not good. I mean, stranded on an island, you know, all that sand and foxholes and whatever. They were both important. They were both very important, and they were both very, very difficult, and a lot of lives were lost everywhere. It was a world war, and it started, we got into it with Japan, and we got into it that way, but then after that we automatically went into Europe through the big invasion in Normandy. And by that time they had the African campaign, and there was a lot of fighting in Africa. And then of course there was Italy. And Italy in those days, the leader, the head honcho, was Mussolini. And he was hand in hand with Hitler. They were buddies, you know. So, but they killed him. The Italians killed him. And so the Italians were our enemies. And then once they separated from Germany, then they became allies. It's kind of an odd situation. But the fighting there in Italy was pretty bad also. The Japanese, just the stories that I heard, you know, the camps that they had and so forth. The Germans is a different story because I was over there. And for a while, I was very sorry for what they were going through, especially civilians, the women, the children especially. It was so sad to see them, you know, begging for food. War, there were always people starving in any type of war, you know, and people were starving there. And children would come to us and beg for food, and it was just a sad situation. Racist. I don't think so. There was, I think the ones that fought in the Pacific, they attacked us. You know, it was bad. They had a hard time to accept that. But we went into Europe because we wanted to get to end the war over there too. So it was, when you have to stop and think that hundreds of thousands of men and women were there that gave their lives just for the sake of being free, you know, and that was quite something. And from what we saw over there in Germany, Hitler, now, they're more or less responsible because they made an idol out of him because he was a Führer and worshipped and they did everything for him. Like these pictures. I found those, what was it? Yeah, These here, I found these in, another thing I gotta talk to you about, the spoils of war. They were in a table, a side table, bed table, you know, and they were in a drawer there, you know, and the people kept those. Sort of, and see them with their hands up, you know, this is higher, you know, this is what this is their way of worshiping Hitler. He was something else. All through this, the while that we were there, the one thing we did not know is that they were killing the Jews by the hundreds of thousands, you know, and they were packing them into these concentration camps. And at one point, now, all during this time, this was going on, and we had no idea. A GI had no idea that this was going on. And at one time, after the war in Germany, we were quartered in this castle on the side of a hill next to this small village. Mossbach was the name of it. And this individual joined that company, and he had just liberated. He had just went into one of those concentration camps, and it was so awful that he could hardly come up with the words, you know, and he would be shaking, you know, at what he saw over there. And I can't imagine the system that they must have had to have all of this happen, to have the extermination of Jews by the hundreds of thousands going all along while we were there and not knowing anything about it. You know, it just didn't make sense. We were a little put out with that. And this lieutenant and I went down to the village, and we went to a farmhouse, and we told these people there, and this wife, remember this wife so well. She looked like my mother somewhat, and we told them what we had found, you know, and they saw how upset we were, you know, and we asked them if they knew, you know, and they said they did not know either. So I don't know. Unless you were living right next to the concentration camps, you could smell the fumes from the chimneys of the burning bodies and so forth, you know. And that woman would just cry, you know. And that's when I felt a little sorry for the German people, because I feel that they were drawn into that, a lot of them. And I've spoken to some Germans now, and I have a couple of friends who are German, and he was there as a young man, and he had no idea, because he was forced also to join the Boys or Children Movement or whatever they had back then, you know. So he didn't know, you know, and so it's kind of sad what one individual can do, you know. His ideas about the super race, this is what they called themselves. They were the super race. They were nice looking people. The Germans they were blonde, blue-eyed, you know, and the girls usually had blonde hair, and the guys are usually blonde and blue-eyed, and you know, they exercised a lot. They had nice bodies and things like that. You know. So they were proud of their race, you know, but they were also, you know, full of ideas about the Jews through propaganda. War is not good. It's so sad. There's another thing. I'm not talking about the German being bad and all this and that. But during the war, and as a war, you automatically, as a military man, as a soldier, you do things that normally you would not do as a civilian. Did I mention the spoils of the war? Well, you know, we would go into a village and we were a machine gun squad. We had our Jeep and we had our trailer, all by the Jeep, and it was all full of our equipment. We had our machine gun, our ammunition, and we'd go into a village or even the city. In the city, we'd get to an apartment, and we'd take over. We'd take the people, we'd tell the people in that house or in another apartment to get out, you know, and they would. They got. Can you imagine if someone came into your house and told you to get out, and that you had nothing to say about it? You just get out. We get in there, and we'd make ourselves at home. That was our home while we were there. One time, I remember in Frankfurt, it was nice and clean. The Germans were clean, and there was a room, a bedroom, next to the kitchen, I think it was, and there was this bed there, and they had these puffed up. They were puffs. You know, they didn't have blankets. They had slept on one, and then they had to cover themselves with another one. So, and I remember laying on there, and the other guy laying on a big bed, and we were exhausted, and with all my clothes on, you know, I just laid there, and I just fell asleep. That bed was stark white, like a shirt, you know. There I was with my boots and things like that. You know? But it didn't matter. You didn't take anything like that into consideration. It was your survival. And then, not long after, we were woken, and we were told by one of our buddies that President Roosevelt had just died. That was quite something. But it is. It's an unbelievable thing to go into someone's home and to say, you get out, and what you have in that house no longer belongs to you. You know, it belongs to the victors. You know, the spoils of the war. That's the spoils of the war right there. Some of these medals. And one time, we went up to this village who was up on a hill. And the hill overlooked a valley. And you could see this road winding into the woods, into this valley. We got into this house, a small house, which was right next to the hill, overlooking the valley. And we were told to set up our machine gun there. And we opened up the window, and we needed something to set up our machine gun. So there was a sewing machine there. I'll never forget it. And it seemed like it was a brand new sewing machine. It was the exact height of the bottom of the window. So we took the machine gun, tripods and all, and set it right on that. And you know, that metal lathe, you know, would dig right in the thing. And we set it up on the sewing machine. As we did that, the women, the people who lived in that house, were getting out. And she looked at the machine gun on her beautiful sewing machine, and she started crying. She passed it, and she just walked out crying. There's nothing she could do about it. Well, we stayed that way for a little while, and then finally, looking out the window, we saw these four Krauts, these four German soldiers who were coming out of the woods in this road. They were four abreast, and they were carrying the white flag. And they slowly came, and finally when they reached us, I was called because one of them could speak French, and so I went up and we started talking, and he mentioned that there were some others there, but they were concerned about the machine gun in the window. So they asked us, you know, if they surrendered, if we would take the machine gun off so they could come out. So that's what we did. We removed the machine gun, and then, but as I was talking to this guy, I don't know how long he had been talking. He had been situated in those woods, but his shirt was open like this, and he had hair on his chest and crawling all over his chest and over the lice or whatever, and it crawling all over, and it never. There was always seemed to be a new one. I couldn't take my eyes off it. It was crazy. So he had been in there for quite a while. You know, he had to be living there in the dirt. So finally, we removed the machine gun, and then they started coming out. They came out by force, and there were thousands of them that came out. They were heading in that Woodswood. And as I mentioned before, this was the end of, you know, it was the last year of the war. And so they were giving up. They were giving up. The tanks, they were big Panzer tanks. They were stranded in the woods everywhere. There was no fuel for them. There were trucks, all kinds of trucks, no fuel. They had used horses and with wagons, and the horses were dead all over the place, decaying bodies. It wasn't good. Not only that, but they also ran out of manpower. So they were using teenagers, just young boys in their teens. And at one point, we usually marched at night, and they called us the night crawlers. And so we'd follow each other 8 spaces apart, you know, endless lines, because they were not just machine gun squads, there were riflemen and BARs and mortar crews and things like that. So we would form a long line, and it would curve in the up and down the roads of the mountains, you know, till we reached the objectives of the weather. At one point, came through some interference, and we heard some gunfire and so forth. And these 2 young boys, I felt sorry for them. You know, one of them had half his ear shot off, you know. They were so scared. They were so afraid, because they went down this line, and there we were, you know, endless line forever, going with all our machine guns and stuff, you know, all our equipment. So I felt sorry for them, you know. Going there towards this village that night, that particular night, we set up our machine gun up on the top of the hill. The village was down below. There was a house down there, because we heard some Germans there. And we set up the machine gun, and they saw us, and they were firing at us, and the bullets, traces, you would see the traces, you know, coming, you know, zooming all over the place, you know, and none of us got hurt. But then at some point, the GIs with their M1 rifles or the ARs or whatever, and they all rushed down, hollering, you know, and they rushed right down, ran right and they captured the Germans over there. The house that they were in, you know, I remember, this woman finally came out, and she spoke to us in German, and I think she told us that she was relieved that we had come and we were going, you know, and, but her husband was there, and he was up on the ladder, and I remember he had a rag, a large rag, and he was trying to put out the fire that was in the corner of the house over there. I think of that a lot, and I don't know why, you know, but it's just so simplest, you know. Yes, there were some good guys. They were not, those guys who were your superior officers were not there for nothing, you know. And it was not easy for them. They had to do some tough things too.